make anyone feel bad. With all that being said, viewer discretion is advised. Hmm. Yeah, well, we're only 10 minutes late. Yeah, we could be further late if you didn't start the music. How's that? All right, yeah, no, that's fair. Hey everybody, what is the word? How you doing? How you feeling? What is going on out there today? I am Solar Grey, the cinematic sorcerer, coming at you from the Wizards Tower. And today, I'd like to welcome you to the dark side of the room. Now, we are going to be talking about a great many things this week. And I would say happy Monday. It really has happy Monday. We got to get out of bed. We got to start the work week again and all that stuff. It's not very fun. Mondays are just not very fun for most folks, unless in the words of the strange and weird Les Claypool, funny thing about weekends when you're unemployed, they don't mean quite so much, except you get to hang out with your working friends. But that even makes Mondays a little bit sadder when it comes down to it, because now your friends are back at work, and it's like, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to come down here and hang out with us. That is what we're doing. So, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that, it's really simple. All you got to do is open up your email and type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on the social medias, the Instagram, I still call them Twitter, even though they're my ex. And of course, um, you can hit us up on the Clock app at BidP. All right. Now, we are going to be talking about a great many things, but really one thing in particular, and that's solo play and scenarios. Because really, scenarios and stuff like that, that's a real thing. That is a real thing. But before we do, this is the part where I beg. Hi, this is me begging and all that stuff. So here's the thing. This is what I do and all of that jazz. So if you guys find any value in what we do, you guys want to help keep our lights on and all that stuff, and help us get to 1,000 subscriptions by the end of February. Okay, by the end of February, please head on over to the Back in the Deck YouTube channel and push subscribe. That actually costs nothing. Okay, that doesn't cost you anything. It literally is just a couple of clicks. Look at a video every once in a while, give it a thumbs up, be like, wow, you're still putting out content. Isn't that fun? And that will really help us, because I'm trying to get monetized on YouTube, and I have not been able to do that particular thing and crack the algorithms. But new year, new plan. I finally have a new year, new something, right? And if you guys get any value out of this, feel free to toss me a donation right here at the donation thing. Right here in right here in the chat. Or you can join our Patreon. Literally, we have $1 and $5 tiers. And of course, you can hit up the very bottom link and head to our merch shop. We have merch. What? Yeah, lots of merch. All right. Honestly, the coffee cup is my particular favorite. And when I am not fiscally choking, I'm actually going to get like 3 or 4 of them, because I'm a coffee mug type of guy. But there are t-shirts, there are hoodies, and all that jazz. So those are the ways that you can help us out. Now, the biggest way that you can help us out. And this is a really big thing. Is how can I put this? Really, really, really simple. You can head on over to Twitch and subscribe with your Amazon Prime account. I mean, it's really that simple. You can just head on over, do the Amazon Prime thing, use Jeff Bezos' money, and that would be awesome. Okay, like seriously awesome. That really helps a lot. Um, unfortunately, I didn't make enough subscriptions and all that stuff this month for Twitch to cut me a paycheck, unfortunately. So this is seriously where I'm reaching out to people saying, hey, hit me up, use the Prime account, do that kind of thing. Spread the word to your friends and all that jazz. So now that we got all that out of the way, I have to run a commercial for exactly those same reasons. So we will be back in a minute. All right, we'll see you guys in a sec. Ooh boy. Yep, this is rough. All right, so let's see who is here. Thank you, Neon, for putting up the link to the Discord. That is awesome. What's going on, Mark Zink and Doink Doink, along with a lonely girl. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, this is some of the stuff that we are going to go on. And yeah, so again, if you guys are wondering why I chose the topic I chose for today, well, I will go into that pretty soon. I'm also finally focusing on some stuff. Hey, what is going on, you? Oh my god, it has been way too long since you've been here. So, a little bit today. I'm not sure if they're subscribed, so they may or may not be seeing this, but they will after the break. So yeah. But again, with the Patreon thing, I have been working on a couple of videos, um, so that I can get more content up on YouTube. I know. I've been saying that for like 3 years, but still, we're doing the thing. Okay, and we're back. So hey guys, so in case you guys are wondering, why is it that he's talking about creating scenarios for games, right? Well, it's simple. I have a friend coming over today to play some co-op board games. Now, last week we talked about BattleTech and we talked about Stargrave. Okay, and I decided that I was gonna film a few how-to series. I thought I was gonna be like, here's an instructional video on how to play this game. Let me teach you how to play it. Da, 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 da. Unfortunately, I have not cracked the code in doing an instructional video for an entire game that's under 45 minutes. So we're just going to be like loading the stuff up on Patreon and 5 to 10 minute videos for each particular part. And then on the YouTube channel, it'll be a whole bunch of playlists. Like, this is our Stargrave playlist. This is our Space Weirdos playlist. This is our 5 sectors from, or 7 parsecs from home playlist. That's the kind of thing. And if you guys are wondering why I spend so much time on miniatures games, well, that kind of goes into what we've been talking about. As I said, a friend of mine is coming over. Unfortunately, I couldn't get them to bring their significant other, but they're coming over tonight to play a co-op board game. And today I chose Stargrave instead of Fireteam Zero because I'd like us to have some hope and victory. There are so many games out there that are just too hard. But when I was thinking about my love of tabletop miniatures games, I don't care if we're talking Stargrave, Frostgrave, Ghost Archipelago, Grimdark Future, Firefight, Age of Fantasy, Warhammer 40K. Of course, now the new Warhammer Old World has come back, which is kind of classic Warhammer. We're talking the DC Universe game, Hero Clicks, Marvel Universe, like just all the tabletop minis games. And they have this weird place. I was talking to one of my big brothers, one of the two that I'm talking to. All right. And he looked at my miniatures and he's like, and all that stuff is for a game? I'm like, it's for about six different ones. And he was career army. Okay. And this is important. Okay. In career army, he got to see a lot of people playing RPGs and he watched The Big Bang Theory, much to my chagrin. And no, I don't like the show. Sorry, I got my reasons. KK. Now, um, so he said he didn't like the tabletop RPG thing because the GM can arbitrarily at any time say that the thing that you succeeded at, you failed at. And I'm like, you might like the tabletop minis world because it's just the fight. And he's like, yeah, I'm into that. And I notice a lot of folks from my neck of the woods. Now, understand I grew up in the hood, okay? And that comes with a lot of stuff attached to it. All right, just a lot of stuff. We've talked about that ad nauseum on this channel. And one of the big things, and hell, you can even see Cardi B in interviews talking about this, is combat is very much a central theme. If you grew up in the hood, I don't care if it's Baltimore or Chicago, what's up South Side. I don't care if it's certain parts of Georgia. Don't care if it's Louisiana and Nolens and that other place that I haven't been, but I know it's there. Um, and in my case, South Central slash Watts slash Compton. Um, combat is a great big thing. Okay, just um, I guess you can say conflict resolution through violence. That's kind of the culture. Everyone thinks of war and the fighting and the combat, not just because that's what we see when we look out our windows, but that's about the only part of history we're ever taught. Okay, we're taught about the Civil War, but we're not taught about the ratification of the 14th Amendment. See what I mean? We're taught about World War II, but we're not really taught about like the Nuremberg trials and the establishment of Israel and stuff like that. That's not within the curriculum of the education that most people in disenfranchised areas have access to. I mean, it's a long thing. It's sociological, it's economic. I could talk about all that stuff, but that's for our meeting tomorrow night down by the docks. So wear a mask. Anyway, um, but the combat part of the tabletop minis games, that is something that a lot of people in my neck of the woods can get into. The main reason, outside of the sociological reason, is that it's straightforward. It's to the point. Okay. Um, when you grow up poor, you have two types of games: games of imagination that you make up on the fly, like playing pretend, in the park with your friends, or Hasbro. All right, we're talking Monopoly, Sorry, Game of Life, all that stuff. But it's set rules, and when you grow up a certain way, you're not taught to think or reason or find solutions. You're taught to do as you're told. And when I say a certain way, I mean, y'all know if y'all are from certain economics places that that is the primary thing. Example, if you grew up on a farm, you're not taught how to figure out irrigation pathways. You're just told to bale the hay, all right? Or barley, you know. But yeah, I mean that's it. You do as you're told, and you're told why years and years later, or maybe not at all. It all depends on what your life path has been determined for you. So this creates a paradigm of people wanting simple things, straight to the point things. And tabletop minis games are pretty straight and to the point. You build your army, you go against somebody else's army, you fight, you beat each other up, you get the objective, or you blast them off of the table, and then you're done with the game. That is it. That is all. You have winning conditions, you have unchanging and unwavering rules that you can look up, you can reference, and you can call it a. All right. However, in times of senior gaming, and what do I mean by that? I mean those of us that have been doing this for decades, and for people that don't come from an environment of do what you're told and don't ask any questions. Um, the straightforward, why are we here? We're here to fight. Those are fighting words. Punch, punch, punch. Um, needs to be a little bit more nuanced, just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And one of the things that we've seen over the years is when you are in these worlds of tabletop minis games, for example, um, you come up with a whole bunch of scenarios. We're talking narrative play, we're talking board conditions, we're just talking a whole bunch of different stuff that comes down. One, to add flavor to the prospect of I built the team, now I'm going to beat up your team with it. However, it's not as involved. Hey, Xanathades, ahoy, ahoy. It's not as involved as, say, a tabletop role playing game where you're playing through a story and that story can last for years. I'm not exaggerating. Years. So, somewhere in between the time it takes to play a game of Uno and Dungeons and Dragons are other types of games. Now, when you're playing with toys in the same way that I like playing with toys, sometimes you have to ask yourself the question, okay, we're fighting, but what are we fighting for? Okay? And this is where scenarios can come into play. Now, this hit my mind because I have a friend coming over. We're going to play Stargrave. And major shout outs to Joseph A. McCullough at Osprey Games. This guy is a beast, okay? He is such a beast. Yes, the main games he's known for is Frostgrave, and everything else is a skin of that. However, how many skins he's done with Frostgrave and all of its expansions, including Ghost Archipelago, Stargrave, and all of its expansions like Quarantine 37 and all that other stuff. Not to mention Rangers of Shadow Deep and all of its other stuff. All right. But we're also talking games, stuff that you can apply to any tabletop miniatures game, just to make it feel a little closer to a board game, but not as cut and dry as spin the wheel, move the car, roll the dice, move your dog. Okay. Um, Not gonna lie, never was a big fan of Monopoly. Never was. And you guys hear me talk about how I don't like the athletic mindset. Um I believe it was Xanathades on Friday who said the phrase that to competitive people, the game is secondary, the competition is number one. Which I'm like, yeah. I tried refining it over the weekend, saying to really competitive people, the ones who think like competitive athletes, the game is a delivery system for the competition. If not the game, it's going to be something else. Hey, I can read more comic books than you. Ha! That kind of thing. But seriously, yeah, that's right, Zan. I'm quoting you and paraphrasing you because you blew me away with your use of the English language. It was amazing and it hit me hard. And if you guys are new to the channel, yeah, welcome to Back on the Deck. I'm trying to cultivate an actual community and I listen to everyone. Okay? I read all the comments. I try to have conversations. Um, oh God, really, 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 Neon? I'm not even that big a fan of Boston. I mean the band. I've never been to the city. Cause all I want is to have my peace of mind. Take a look ahead. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't get me demonetized. Now, um, so what we talk about on this is creating scenarios. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you're like me, you watch a lot of video content out there for every new thing that you come across. Okay, every new game that you learn, um, you look at painting videos, you look at battle reports, you look at let's plays, you look at how tos, um, and one of the things I always come across, and this is big in the 40K community, okay, is people talking about telling a story with your minis or telling a story with your team. Now, in Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu and all that stuff, it is always cut and dry like that. Your character existed before you created them for the game, so they have a family and a background and a backstory. But the difference between a lot of tabletop minis games and RPGs in regards to backgrounds and backstories is that in an RPG, the backstory of your character or your team or whatever could actually come into play. Your GM can incorporate that. Where with tabletop minis, specifically 40K, your backstory doesn't mean anything. Partly because lore. No other game has lore. It is only 40K lore. Okay, sorry, I had to get that out of my system. Um, the lore in 40K is so thick, so thick. There's just so much of it. So much. 400 novels. I mean, really, guys. And very similar with BattleTech. Make no mistake. BattleTech is a little more open. It's a little more open. But a lot of people pick their color schemes and stuff like that based on the backstory they have for their figures. And they're like, well, I'm playing 40K and I want to do Ultramarines, but I don't want to do Ultramarine blue. I think I'd like to make mine purple. And I don't like the Emperor's Children, but I am going to make my Space Marines purple. So this is a sub-faction of this and all that stuff, and they come with to excuse their paint schemes. Personally, I'm like, hey, guess what? Um, you know, guess what? They're my toys. I do what I want. However, it does get kind of boring to get together with your friends and say, put your army on the table, let's fight, you know? Um, but when you create scenarios for your quick game, two things happen. Number one, a mission, a scenario, a plot, that question of why are we here and doing this, that becomes a really big and really cool thing. Now, every game has its own lore. All right. As you guys can see, I'm sitting up here with Stargrave, you know, science fiction war games in the ravaged galaxy. And one of the things I gotta give to Joseph McCullough is that he pumps out scenarios like I pump out live streams. I'm just like, dude, this guy. And first off, I want to define a scenario. What is the purpose of putting your minis on the table in that game at that time? Okay. Now, when you watch a battle report, you know, you'll see them describe things, especially if you watch the freaking celestial beings that play on tabletop. They'll be like, you know, can the white scars, blah 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 blah, against the ever never ending green tide of the orcs, and honestly, it's fun to watch. But when you're playing the game, it's like, what am I doing here? What? Okay, it can feel like I put my figures on the table, I roll the dice, they do their thing, and I even had someone that I don't interact with much anymore say, yeah, it's all the same. You have your figures, they might look different, but you roll the dice, they do, you say what you want to do, you roll the dice, and they see if they do it. And at its bare bones, they were correct. Okay. However, this was coming from someone that had no passion for war games, no passion for board games, didn't care about the setting, and does not play pretend games of immersion. Okay, they don't even play D&D with their kid, and their kid plays D&D at least once a week. It is so weird. Um, but the thing that makes so many of these games work so well is our willingness for suspension of disbelief and the stories that we come down. So, I took a look at some of the games that came up with scenarios, and these are some of the important parts to creating a scenario for your tabletop game. Now, D&D has the pillars. Okay, they have the pillars of role play. We're talking combat, puzzles, character interaction, i.e., role play. Okay, character interaction being role play, and rewards. All right, that's a big thing. But if you're going to play something that's not as involved, you can look toward what I like to call the third tier, third top tier board games and some of the miniatures games, like from Joseph McCullough, to come up with different reasons for fighting. Um, so what you need are reasons to be there. Now, in the big boy tabletop minis games. When I say big boys, I mean the big boys on the market, like War Machine, Warhammer 40K, Age of Fantasy, Kings of War, stuff like that. This is taken care of with objectives. You're there to secure the objective. Well, what is the objective? What happens if I fail? You know, those questions aren't really asked. It's just secure the objective. Um, and keep the other guy out. That's your reason for being there. And it's handled in a very need to know basis, right? It's like you're getting your orders from on high and you're not allowed to ask questions, i.e., do what you're told and secure that mission objective and beat the other player. And that part does tend to scare away a lot of players, specifically new players. Okay. However, how does putting together your crack team of mercenaries to run through the city and free the two prisoners while free the two prisoners that are locked somewhere in the city that you have to find and retrieve the data in order to get it back to the base to find out what the bad guys are up to. Well, I just kind of described the beginning of the Star Wars franchise. Literally, that's the beginning of A New Hope, right? Um, you know, I'm talking not the big overhead ship that goes on for hours and hours, but those rebels were running away after stealing plans to the Death Star, and then Princess Leia gets captured. Oh my God, we have a plot. All right, and that is the place that we can seriously um interact with our mini war games and our miniatures games or our role playing games. That gives us a quick answer as to what we're doing this for, why we're here. Now, after this commercial break, we'll come back and we will talk about how important this is and how it can enrich our particular thing. So we'll be right back. All right. So let me take a look at who's here. Wow, we're getting more people in here. Hey, what's going on, Sleeping Beauty Syndrome and Vine Construct? Hey, it's good that you're here. I'm still trying to get you to come over to play one of these games. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know if you are subscribed. I can't quite see. Nope, nope, you're not subscribed, so you can't see this. Oh, you can hear me. All right, so that's good. That's good because I can't afford to gift you a subscription here. Oh, wait a second. What the? Huh? Well, oh, okay. There we go. Ah, that's what I'm looking for. That's how I get rid of that. Cool. Um, fantastic, fantastic. So, let's see here. I'm also checking. I should say, paste that little thing there. I am really gonna have to learn how to make a little bot for this. So we'll see that. And we're back. So now that we're back, um, why is this so important? Well, I have a lot of friends who play a lot of games. Okay. Now, most of my friends are die-hard role players, but the role playing games they play are very intrigue, character interaction, kind of backstabby and stuff like that. And one of the main reasons is that when they play head to head, most of them, because they deal with intrigue and all that stuff, are very, if a rule is exploitable, it must be exploited. They're game breakers more than they are game players. That's just their style. I don't have judgment. I only have observation of it. Okay. Um, and we've talked about that at great length. I don't want to go into it right now. But one of the major things that gets people in to playing tabletop games, especially when they're co op, is we talked about this a bit on Friday. Um, the co op games that we can do can be, and I mean this, um, can feel very much like all of us against the system, okay, against the game itself. Can we accomplish this thing? All right. So when we want to create a scenario, there are a few things that we need. One of the things that we need is an overall reason for doing this. Now, this takes me back um, to my role playing in the 80s and the 90s. Okay. Now, for you young whippersnappers out there that have only been playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, I'm going to talk about how it was back in my day. Okay. And I mean this not to say that it was better or worse, it was just different. Back in my day, a role playing session was you and your party got contracted by someone to go somewhere, fight something, and to bring something back. And along that way, you would beat up monsters and you would take their stuff. So much so that an entire franchise of a card game was created. That card game is called Munchkin, where you beat up the monsters and you take their stuff. Um, the story involving not just character interaction, but character evolution and personal stories that didn't go that way back then. We weren't as concerned. I mean, we learned how to play role playing games in the decade of really schlocky action movies. When you look at Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you really don't care about his upbringing, as it were. Like, and when I say upbringing, I literally mean like you don't care what his relationship with his brother is. You don't really, you don't really delve into how he knows all the members of his team. You just know it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Most of the other people he's talking to are going to die, and he's going to say something really cool like get to the chopper or and that was enough. Okay? I mean, seriously. It was basic, it was popcorny, it wasn't really that deep. And when we play role playing games now, we tend to ask a lot of those media literacy questions. All right. So, the thing that I want to talk about in regards to that, as far as creating scenarios for our tabletop minis games and our little pew pew, look at my monster go, pew pew, look at my robot, pew pew. We don't need that much character interaction for games like that. 9 chances out of 10, we're looking to not be there all day. How much backstory do you get of any of the characters in Predators, including Arnold? Honestly, you get a lot of backstory. He's got really big arms. He's really sarcastic. He smokes cigars, and yeah, that's what we get. He did stuff. He has military, and he says hello by arm wrestling in the air with Carl Weathers. Before Carl Weathers kills everybody in the place, gathers up all their leftovers because once he does, you got a stew cooking, baby. That's the backstory that we need. That's what Predator gives us. Same with Alien, same with all that stuff. You get a little bit of backstory, and then the rest of it is let's go blow some stuff up. And here's one of the big things I want to put out there, guys. And this is a big distinction when it comes to a lot of different types of games. Okay. Um, though you may use some of the same materials, miniatures, books, notes, characters, things like that, not every game is the same as every other. What do I mean? Sometimes when I teach people tabletop war games, they put backstory on their characters and they become super, super, super emotionally attached to them. And they want to play the tabletop war game as though it's a tabletop role playing game. Other times, I'll teach somebody a tabletop role playing game and they will only want to deal with combat. They'll put stuff together, they'll shoot it. You call them murder hobos. I call them tabletop war gamers. Um, Sometimes I'll teach somebody a tabletop war game and they'll want to join forces with, let's say it's more than a two-person game. You get three people on a tabletop war game. There's going to be alliances. They're going to be broken, things like that. And they go from playing pew pew, look at my giant robots, to a Game of Thrones board game, okay? Or the political aspects of playing Risk with a bunch of people that you actually do like. Um, and if that is how you have fun, that's cool. However, when it comes to learning a game from the beginning, you know what we say back in the deck. Learn the game that you're being taught before you turn the game into something else. Okay? Learn one page rules before you try and make it 40K. Don't learn one page rules and try and turn it into 40K while you're learning. Don't learn Frostgrave and turn it into D&D while you're learning Frostgrave. It's just too many contradicting things. Um mm. The only place that I can think of off the top of my head that that kind of thing does work is if you're learning to play bass, you have to think like a drummer sometimes. But that's about it. Um so Now I'm not saying you're bad if you do this, okay? I'm not. But what I am saying is doing that particular thing inhibits your ability to learn the game that you're trying to learn. And it reduces the amount of fun that you can have because you're so frustrated trying to make something into something that it isn't. Okay? Um so when it comes to putting together a scenario, these things can get really simple. I find no more than 3 paragraphs of backstory is required for the why are you and yours there. Okay. And what do I, you're thinking like, oh my God, 5 paragraphs. That's so much to write. Slow down. I will speak them. Okay. Um, let's take Stargrave, for example, because it's what I'm going to be playing later on today. But this works for a kill team, Grimdark Firefight, Carnivale. Um, it doesn't matter what skirmish game you're playing or even really what war game you're playing. But follow me here. Paragraph 1. You have been contracted to put together a crack strike team in order to retrieve data. There is a book somewhere. There is a person with a thing. There is a MacGuffin that needs to be captured. However, there is an opposing force that if they get it, they will destroy the world. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go get the thing before it destroys the world, or before the bad people get their hands on it and it destroys the world. Okay? Um and that's it. That's the most that you need. That, or at least that's as much story as you need. And you can go into as much detail as you want when you're creating a scenario. Things like board conditions are what they're called when you're at a tournament, but I like to call them environmental factors. Um, are you on a planet that's volcanic? Okay, at the end of every round, roll a die and see if a volcano goes off and where it lands. Um, is there rain? Ooh, yeah. Like is there like some sort of chemical rain? You guys know I'm very sci-fi. Is there chemical rain? What does that mean? That means at the end of every round, um If you roll the dice and it goes below half of the dice, so if it's a d20, if you roll 10 or lower, or if it's a d6, if it's 1, 2, or 3, something like that. All characters that aren't under some sort of covering terrain um has to take a defense roll. Um are you in a wretched hive of scum and villainy? Roll a die. Whoever or have a roll off. Whoever wins the roll off gets to put another monster, creature, or random bad guy on the board. You know, um, are you playing a scenario with a ticking clock? You know, um, disarm the bomb that's in the middle of the board um, before the end of round three, or else it blows up and all your characters die. You know, some sort of, I guess you can say, force of nature scenario that adds a little bit of spice to your game. Okay, and these things can be really simple, and I recommend that they're only moderately complex. Okay, and what do I mean by moderately? I just mentioned three things: a ticking clock and two different environmental factors. I never recommend using more than two additional things um to a game, because more than two makes it really it makes a lot of bookkeeping. Okay, and do we want to play a game or do we want to do our taxes? That is a major question. All right. um this is a really big thing. Now, one or two factors, um always great. Okay, I don't care if you're looking at a tabletop skirmish game, if you're looking at a role-playing game in Dungeons and Dragons. Those factors are put upon, or not put upon, but they're included with most of your big bad evil guys. Okay, when you're dealing with the BBEG, um, one mitigating factor: are they immune to the type of damage that, or resistant? Are they resistant to the type of damage that your party does? Um, environmental factor: layer actions, guys. Seriously. Um, at the end of a round, does the layer attack you? Does it not attack you? Roll a random die, and this enriches the experience that you're dealing with, making it a lot more than just run in, stab the guy, take the thing, run away. Okay. Minions are some of my favorite things. So I don't mean the franchise. I mean, yeah, Minions is cool, but yeah, I mean, using minions is one of my favorite things to do. I love the the idea of at the end of every round, um I like to roll two dice. Okay. A percentile dice to see whether or not more minions come, and then I roll and then I roll a d6 for how many new minions come. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's six. Any more than that is crazy, you know. Um, and these types of things add huge flavor to your games, when you're creating scenarios. And this goes out to DMs as much as it does to people who want to put together board games. All right. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. I know, right? It doesn't seem like it's that long, but it has been that long. And we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls in creating scenarios right when we get back. We'll be back in about a minute. All right. So I'm not sure if you guys can see me, if you are or are not subscribed, but hey, what's going on, Sofa King? All right. But yeah, I mean, these are some of the things that I got to think about when I'm having people over to play games. One of my favorite, favorite, favorite things to do is to get people together that have to work together and do stuff. There are already board games that do this all over the place. And if you have money to get them, we'll talk about them closer to the end of the show. All right. I want to say what's up to my folks over on YouTube. Yeah, that's right. Live chat. Let's see who's here. Let's see who's here. All right. Um, because honestly, this was one of the major changes that came about in the late 2010s. Okay, with board games. Hey, what's going on, Gaming Fix? Um, I'll get to that. All right, guys. So we are now officially back from our commercial break. Now, why is this so important? Well, it's been about 10 years. Okay, and in the 2010s, all right, I'd say mid to late 2010s, the types of board games that were available expanded. All right, in the early 2000s, we had what I like to call the German influence, with companies like Mayfair and Rio Grande. The games that brought us, or the companies that brought us games like Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan, and the European style board games, which I love. I love those games. Settlers of Catan is still one of my favorite ones. But those games introduced a force of nature happening within the game, outside of Monopoly's chance and community chest. Okay? In Settlers, if you roll a seven, somebody gets raided by raiders. Okay, they could be pirates, they could be something else, but part of the board essentially goes blank when you roll a certain amount and you lose your resources and it becomes more difficult. And this is good because most games need a little something more than me versus you, or all of us versus someone else. Um, Now, most of the time, this gets accomplished by dice rolls. Okay, someone once said that when you're playing a tabletop combat game like 40K or BattleTech, you putting together your team of mechs and all their gear and all that stuff, that is you as a general planning for combat, and your dice rolls are supposed to signify the random happenings on the board. Okay. Um, but I've known a lot of gamers over my time, and a die roll, a weird draw, that doesn't feel great. It feels like something that the player themselves should have accounted for, or it has the illusion of control. Okay, it gives the illusion of control. Um, Although you make your deck and you have a random draw, you should be able to stack your deck enough to pull stuff out. All right, but um, but to have some sort of outside environmental factor, something that happens. I remember back in the '90s, um, I used to play SimCity, and when I wasn't being the um, what is the term I'm looking for? The tyrannic overlord that threw monsters at my city at random because I had a bad day at work. Those things, occasionally storms would happen, tornadoes, monster invasions, things like that. It was a video game, guys. Come on. And in all honesty, um, that is kind of the flavor that a lot of board games went. All right. But here's the thing: there is a drawback to this, and it's the same drawback that happens whenever you have any, any, any homebrew system, and that is when you are creating individual things or additions to your game. Anytime you go homebrew, it is possible to add too much. Okay? Um, I'm looking for the right words, which is something I should have done a lot earlier. But when you go homebrew, i.e., creating scenarios and stuff, it becomes really easy to make the game either too simplistic or impossible to win at. Now, excuse me, there are a lot of games where their whole scenario or their whole flavor isn't win, but it's lose well. A lot of people believe, and I say a lot of people because I've talked to a lot of people over the years, a lot of people think that Call of Cthulhu is a lose awesomely, or is a game with the lose awesome intent. I don't tend to agree with that. I really don't. I don't believe that a death worthy of song is the only way to play the game. All right. And this is coming from someone who's been watching horror movies since 1980. I'm talking like at the very beginning of the slasher genre where there was only one survivor left. Um, yeah, I don't believe that a fun game will be that every time you sit down and play it. That's never a thing. But when you're creating scenarios, okay, here are the three important bits to creating a scenario. Okay. Bit one, is it engaging? You have to make your scenario engaging. How do we do this? We make sure that the scenario is important to every person playing. Well, how do we do that? It's simple. We make the scenario affect their decision making. Let's take layer actions or board or environmental conditions. All right. Um, if you go over there, you might blow up. That affects whether or not a player will move their piece there. It's really that simple. It's engaging. Um, if you have, say, a tornado storm that moves random inches in a random direction, like a D10 randomizer, we'll get to that in one of these weeks later. If that tornado can come toward your figures and yeet them off the board, that's a pretty engaging scenario, you know? Like get achieve the mission goal before your figures are yeeted off the table or before the goal is yeeted off the table. And I know people don't use yeet anymore, but I like that term. Yeet. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Do I see Paranoia the same as Call of Cthulhu? Um, Honestly, yes, because I think that both games, be it Paranoia, or Call of Cthulhu, have winning conditions. If they didn't, then they wouldn't have sequel campaigns. You can pick up a module for Call of Cthulhu or Paranoia, and then that module will have a sequel. But if your characters were meant to die or go crazy and stay crazy or use up all of their clones, then why would there be a sequel? You see what I mean? Um, this is very much one of those things, but again, I'm Generation X, and our cynicism is really unhealthy in a good amount of time. But as I was saying, making your scenario engaging, okay, that is number one. Number two, okay, number two, make sure that though your scenario is engaging, it does not rob players of agency, okay? And what do you mean? Well, let's take something just fell out of my lap, and I don't know what it was or where it went. Ah, there it is. Let's take our our tornado yeet, okay, as an example. Okay, now it's really easy to say if the tornado touches you, you're gone. However, give them a saving throw and a decent saving throw, then you're fine. You know, if you're playing one page rules, okay. Once the thing hits you, you have to make a defense roll um, to not be eaten off the board. Okay. Hey, I made my defense roll. Cool. I'm still here. That's it. That's all you got to do. Now, how do we make this overcomplicated? Okay. Well, you got to make a defense roll to not be yeeted off the board. However, if you succeed, then your character suffers exhaustion as though they took an action, and the next turn you have to take away the knockdown or exhaustion marker. You see what I mean? You know, one, that makes it a little too complicated, and two, that makes the characters or the players feel as though they have too little agency. Okay, because again, oh no, I'm stunned because a tornado versus, yeah, and my guy dodged the tornado like the kids from Stand By Me dodged the train. Yeah. If you watch that movie, those kids should have been dead. Okay, but they weren't, because it's a movie and you would have been robbed of the emotional catharsis that came 20 minutes later in the movie had two of the main characters been hit by a train or fell to their deaths while trying to dodge a train. You get what I mean? Um so yeah, keep it engaging. Don't make it difficult. Okay, so difficult that it takes away their agency. And number 3, and this is a really big one, make sure that it affects all teams and figures on the table. Oh, yeah. That's the stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, seriously, and I mean this, all right? I have seen way too many games where once an environmental thing happens, you'll have two guys, like let's say you're in a role playing game and stuff like that, and a newer GM or a less experienced GM will say, haha, pirates have come down. And you have your minis on the board, and the pirates will take a shot at someone. And the rule is, if they miss, it goes in a random direction, right? Yet the randomness never hits the other pirates, you know? So let's say you have an environmental thing, it could. It is very, very, very possible that it could hit the mercenaries trying to keep you from stopping your goal. It could hit your people. Hit the it could hit the mission objective, you know? Um if you add a mission scenario, it has to apply to everyone that's there as evenly across the board. Okay? And remember, rule number 2, keep it simple. Keep it simple. That's all. Just keep it simple. Make sure it affects everyone and make sure it's engaging. Okay? It's really that simple. Um Ticking clock scenarios are so fun. So fun. I created one that I called the reality machine for Hero Clicks because it was based in comic books. And at the end of every round, I rolled a die, and that increased the aura of the effect that the machine did. Okay, and I did make it too complicated, which is why I didn't play it. But if I were to play it now, yeah, every round the aura would get 2 or 3 squares bigger. Okay, and whoever's in that aura, how many stats were there? Movement, attack, defense, damage, and special. Okay, so yeah, each character that is caught in that aura has to roll a die. On a 6, nothing happens. However, on a 1, one of their stat powers would be taken away. So if they had a movement power and you rolled a 1, that movement power not there anymore. Goodbye, speedsters. If they were shooters and they rolled a 2, you see what I mean? That kind of thing. Because reality is warping and they lose a power if they do it. And that kind of thing is like, yeah, let's do that, especially since I'm removing random tools to the superheroes, but they have to stop the machine or else it destroys the city. You see what I mean? This type of thing can add so much flavor um, to a game. They're outside factors that, well, again, the reason for doing these scenarios is that it gives you something outside of can I beat you up to worry about, to deal with, you know? Um, the big reality changing machine in the middle of the board, um, I call it a tornado. It could be a lightning storm that does damage or something that moves randomly throughout the table. Um, One of my favorite things, and I mean this, is the running objective. Okay, what do I mean by run? I mean it moves on its own accord. you know, um, because I think about playing scenarios and things like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm walking along my day, and now dudes in power armor with grenade launchers are coming to kidnap me. I'm gonna run. Okay, and that also gives a ticking clock. Give them a random direction to run in. Do they make it to the edge of the table? If they make it to the edge of the table, they get away and nobody wins. You see what I mean? Um, that could be a really big thing. But, these types of scenarios are things that can add so much stuff. And when I think about it, let me give you guys one of Solar's rules of thumb when it comes to adding scenarios or adding homebrew elements to games. Okay? Ready? At the end of the game, when you tell your friends you couldn't make it, will it sound cool when you're telling them? Okay? If you were telling this as though it happened to you, would it be a good story? That is the number one thing that's important, you know? Because I've seen poker players that are like, dude, I had pocket aces and then I sat on them and blah, blah, blah. And then the river came and then I folded right before the river and then the river card turned, or yeah, I had pocket aces and I was going to ride it out all the way up to the river card, but then the turn hit and there was, nothing but unmatching face cards there. And I'm like, okay, well, I got this, but if somebody's got that inside straight, I'm screwed because it beats a pair. So I fold it right at the next to last card, and then the river came out, and boom, it was another ace. And I'm like, yeah, that's really messed up. But you see what I mean? They tell the story, you're engaged in the story. So when you're adding stuff to your game scenario, all right, Play on Tabletop, one of my favorite channels, says Dice Tells Stories, okay? And you're going to get the stories of, and all I needed was a 3, and I just kept rolling 2s. That's one thing. However, um, yeah, they, um, they managed to hold me back from getting my hands on the data store, but then the lightning storm came, and the data storm ended up not getting hurt because it made its saving throws, but the guy that had it, yeah, he got hit with the lightning and blown like 5 inches away from the data thing, and then I was able to go in, grab the thing, and run when the data storm moved. That that is kind of cool, you know. And if it did happen to you, if you were the one that got yeeted off the table by the tornado, it was like, yeah, I almost had it. I picked up the briefcase and I started running, but I couldn't make it to the bridge. I couldn't make it to hide under the bridge, and right when I was about to be there, boom, hit by a tornado, ripped off the board. It was awesome, that kind of thing. So that's definitely my rule of thumb. If you're adding something to the board, tell the story of what happened with it. In fact, tell the story of losing to it. And if that's a way that sounds awesome to lose to, you're on the right track. You know? Um and additional rule, again, keep it engaging, make sure it affects everyone equally. Okay? Engaging, equal, simple. Keep it simple, i.e., don't add too much. 2 things, great place to start. And finally, and This is an additional thing, okay? This is a bonus one. Take it or leave it as you will. But keep it random. What, absolutely random. It's like, what? Why would I keep it random? I'll tell you why you should keep it random. Keeping it random is really important because there are more people out there that have learned to break games than you would think. And the clever thing to do when it comes to board conditions are I don't have a weapon or a spell that can stop this guy, but maybe I can trick him into blank. Okay? Um maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to make him chase me past this and then he'll get hit with the volcano eruption. Or maybe I'll be able to push them somewhere and they'll get yeeted up by the tornado. Or maybe um maybe something clever will happen. This is where the Johnnies come out. But if it's random, it becomes very difficult to plan for that. And this is why planning for that can be problematic, okay? Or should I say troublesome? At that point, the plan to exploit the board conditions can then become the primary interaction of play from certain players and they disengage from the rest of the game and the other players. Okay? But if it's random, then they won't be able to concentrate very hard. If you don't know what direction or how many inches the yeet tornado is going to go, then you won't spend nearly as much time trying to maneuver your enemies into the yeet tornado. It becomes something different, you know. It becomes a thing that you have to be worried about and not something that you can spend an entire game trying to exploit um, to win. You see what I mean? Um, Now, all of these things are really cool additions to your games. I don't care if we're talking tabletop role playing game or tabletop miniatures games. Now, there's a lot of board games that are out there that do this already. And if you have the extra 140 US dollars to spend on them, let me give you a couple of suggestions. I know it's a lot, all right? Um, because we're in a very interesting time with board games because board games are coming closer and closer to being tabletop RPGs that people don't have to write. Um, the number one that's out there right now is Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven has a lot of these things out there. Excuse me. But most of these games that I'm about to bring up cost more than 100 US dollars. And given that a standard fridge full of groceries in the US right now costs 2 to 300, yeah, I'm giving you guys these tools so you can use what you got to make what you have a little more interesting until you can get something better. But games that do this and do this well are games like Gloomhaven, Fireteam Zero, uh, Zombicide does this very well. Let's see what else. What else? Pandemic is a game that does that, but I don't know if we have a lot of sales of it since it came out before COVID and it's still out there. I know I haven't played it on my cell phone. Ooh, looks like I have to sneeze. Hang on just a moment. False alarm. Don't you hate that? Don't you hate that? What other games that are out there that I can think of off the top of my head? Not Final Girl. That's a five man enter, one girl leave type of game. Um, but yeah, there are lots of different games. One of the first places I noticed this was in board games like a Game of Thrones, where you have all your machinations, but there's a ticking clock to the random occurrence, and that is when do wildlings attack and what do they take? And this type of thing is a really cool extra layer to your gameplay experience, you know. This is something that's out there in storytelling all the time. If you are a fan of Game of Thrones from George R. R. Martin, yeah, you're looking at all this political stuff, but you're going, guys, zombies up there, zombies are coming. Yeah, no, guys, zombies come. Don't care who's on the throne. Army of zombies. Am I the only one seeing this? Um, if you know, if you're looking at um pretty much any apocalypse tale and you end up seeing people argue over who's got power, who doesn't have power, and you're going, guys, meteor, Earth, headed this way. Come on, you know? Um, that kind of additional scenario is really big. So yeah, um, make sure that it affects everyone on the board. Make sure that it's simple. Okay, just a simple thing. Um, no more than two factors: a ticking clock and an environmental thing. Or a ticking clock to an environmental thing. That's a thing that happens. And of course, don't make it too powerful. Okay, don't make it too powerful because again, homebrewing things makes it really easy to make something way too powerful because that just yeah. Um I love games like Fire Team Zero. However, sometimes like Fire Team Zero, any of the Call of Cthulhu things, even House on Haunted Hill, I know they're made to be won, but they're just so hard. They're just so difficult. I'm like, the first mission in Fire Team Zero, I have still not won it. And I won't go on to the second mission until my guys survive the first one. That's part of my brain meats. Um, with this was one of my difficulties with Frostgrave when it first came out, which was the solo play rules made it so hard to get through a mission. And I'm like, I didn't play a lot of them that way because I'm like, I don't really want to set up the table, go through all that stuff, and just get stomped by the AI. Okay. Um, and when I play alone, I don't want to be one of those players that are like, well, I know I rolled a one, but nobody's looking. No, that's not playing a game, guys. Don't fudge your own dice rolls when playing solo. Um, so try and make sure that what you're putting out is not that difficult. I know when I do stuff, this is one of the reasons that I fell in love with the Rangers of Shadow Deep when it came out because those scenarios were absolutely achievable. Um, you'd lose crew members, make no mistake, but your ranger and um and your apprentice ranger or your wizard's apprentice, your first mate, your two characters could survive and go on to the next one. And that's one of the things that I really like. Now, um we're going to take another quick commercial break and then we'll be back talking a little more about solo games and using your solo games for campaigns and the stuff that's involved in that. Hey, Citizen Splicer. Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah, we'll be right back, guys. We'll be back after these commercial breaks. Ooh, I really hate having to run so many commercial breaks, but I got a mortgage. Um, so yeah, I remember when I was first playing Frostgrave. Um, that was huge. Where I'm like, okay, I got my wizard, I could do stuff like that. And oh my god, everything kills me. um, never once did I make it through the first mission. Now, I am filming instructional videos, which will then lead into me doing battle reports. Okay, guys. I finally got my camera situation handled, and I'm lowering my bar because I'm not as good as tabletop tactics or play on tabletop. I'm not those guys. They have teams. Um, but I will have fun. And I want to talk about playing by yourself, having fun by yourself, and campaigns. And we're back. So, um, again, these scenarios and stuff, always very cool. Now, talking about scenarios leads us straight into campaign type miniatures games. Now, you see this in games like Pandemic. Um, what was it? One of the apocalypse survival games, Zombie Side, where you make your characters and then comes the bookkeeping. Okay. And thank you, Citizens Splicer. I'm having an all right. I'm having an all right Monday. I'm getting a lot done. I had a really good talk with Tanya, the War Mistress, earlier today, in regards to the stuff that I'm filming because I was not really, I wasn't really filming stuff. I'm currently filming a how-to video on Stargrave, and there are a lot of components in doing a tutorial, and I want to make sure that I have them understandable. You get what I mean? I want to do them properly, but then I'm from LA. I went to film school, so I've got all this in my head, and it's just frozen me up. But now I'm like, you know what? I've got the camera situation sorted out. I'm just going to film the stuff. It's going to be on Patreon. Then it's going to be on our YouTube channel. And we'll be good. We'll be good. And this opened me up to being able to do stuff like Space Weirdos and 5 Parsecs from Home and all that other stuff. Now that I have a standard that I've set. So this is good. Playing by yourself, giving scenarios, this leads directly into campaign play. And campaign play is something I do not like. At least I thought I didn't like it. Okay? And what do I mean? Well, our musical mentor Dave Matthews once said, "It is not where but who you're with that really matters." I'll repeat that. Not where, but who you're with that really matters. Now, I was not a big fan of the bookkeeping when it came to campaign play. And that was primarily based on the fact that most of my gaming companions and gaming circles have lots of what I call gamer trauma. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they are so used to people pulling edge cases and loopholes in order to screw them over that they examine every single microcosm of everything to make sure that they're not making any mistakes. And that makes games drag out forever. What do I mean? Well, there are some people. My sister is a great example. She would just make a D&D character. Just boom. I don't know how to play this game, but this power sounds cool. This power sounds cool. This power sounds cool. Let's play. And then there are the people that literally take days to create a character because they want to make absolutely sure that they understand every nuance, edge case, and creative use of every spell and every ability that's there. And no, I'm not talking about the people who have intense attention to detail because it's part of their personality. I'm talking about the people that have that attention to detail because they're trying to make sure that the person that they're playing with doesn't use the game to embarrass them. Okay? I know lots of people that are like that. And the people that I would normally play with, especially minis games, I'm surprised that I still like minis games because I have played with people that argued over microns. Microns. What does that mean? That means, that, my friends, is a micron, a literal hair. Okay, if it was a micron short, then no, you wouldn't be able to make them. Look at that. And I'm like, dude, if I have to pull out scientific equipment to play this game with you, I am not having fun. Sorry. I don't want to have to get freaking microscope stain in order to drip on the thing and then to make sure everything is in focus. And hey, look, yeah, I am a micron in, and oh my God, look at all the bacteria on this gaming table. No, that is not my point of having fun. I'm just like, close enough. Is it within an inch? That looks like it's within an inch. Cool. Hey, It's a micron larger than an inch. Eh. Yeah, surely a tape is enough. You would be surprised. Okay. And a lot of the times, this comes out with people that have played lots of games. And keep in mind, I'm a 46-year-old man, and most of the people that I teach games to recently have been over 25. Okay. And they've grown up um, being viciously mocked for not winning. Um, um, like, all right, I'm gonna be real with y'all. All right. Um, I'm Generation X, and Generation X are crazy people. Okay. We were crazy. We were mean. Okay. And one of the reasons I started this whole thing was my trauma from being around mean people. When I was in the second grade, okay, we used to chant stuff on the playground like, we won, we shot the BB gun, y'all lost, y'all ate the applesauce. And I'm like, number one, applesauce is freaking delicious. And second, you're calling me a baby, dude. We're both in the second grade. Like, okay, yeah, I lost a game. It does not determine who I am. Yes, I've been this way my entire life. However, first comes the teasing, then comes the social exiling or the othering, then comes the violence and all that stuff. Um, a couple of people that I used to game with their parents, and their parents literally used to cheat at games and use games as a method of pushing their narcissism or the narratives of their narcissism at their own children. Okay. Um, and so when it came to playing these campaigns and the bookkeeping involved, like how much loot that we get, what can we buy with that, it literally became a chore. There was actually someone in my life that did this thing that I hated, and this is part of my neurospice, which is instead of saying no, they overcomplicate things. Okay, and this is something that I'm in therapy for because I do my best not to yell at the people that I love, but folks have a hard time saying no directly. So what they'll do is they'll overcomplicate things to discourage you from wanting to do that. So instead of saying nah or I don't really like this, and if I tell you that, you're going to want to talk about it and try and come up with solutions so that I'll have fun, but I don't want to have fun with that. Um, they'll come up with a lot of reasons why it's too hard, or they'll make it really complicated, and I mean that kind of thing gets on my last nerves because I'm gullible. So when a person says yes, I believe that they want to do something. Um, so when it comes to the bookkeeping of the game, that and I mean experience points or loot tokens or anything like that. I've got this personal thing where I'm like, it's just a little too much. I just want to play the game. I don't want to have to keep notes or check my notes or go back and all that stuff. I that doesn't seem fun. However, in learning a lot of games in order to teach them, I find that I was doing bookkeeping myself. Just the thing I didn't want to do, turns out I was already doing. Instinctively, like seriously instinctively. And this was a surprise and a revelation to me because it turns out I didn't like bookkeeping with the people I was with, primarily because they weren't bookkeeping for the game's sake. There was an ulterior motive that they weren't honest about. Okay. Um, Now, with Stargrave and all of the games from Joseph McCullough, and a lot of other games from Osprey, Gaslands has a little bit of bookkeeping as well. Not to mention BattleTech and Mech Warrior. Okay, a lot of games have this thing where if you win, you can raid for scrap and you can upgrade your stuff and all those things. This comes down to playing campaigns. And personally, if I'm going to write a campaign, and this is a me thing, okay, just a me thing, if I'm going to write a campaign, I'm going to run an RPG. All right? But if you don't want to run an RPG, or if you're going to run a campaign for solo play, um, excuse me, there are a lot of good systems that have a decent, not very granular system that's out there for keeping for doing all this bookkeeping. Mm. You know, like in Stargrave, I haven't looked this up for Frostgrave yet because I couldn't get past the first mission. Um, you get the loot tokens, and it tells you later on in the book. Do 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 do. Do. Yeah, it tells you what you can spend your loot on after page 125 in the book. Now, I could do this. I couldn't do this. What I noticed was when I made stuff for my tabletop minis games, and this was something I saw in Rangers and Frostgrave. They had injury charts that were supposed to carry with the crew that you put on from one mission to another. I don't like those. I really don't. If my guys can live but be injured or have stat reductions and stuff like that, I'll just make a new team. And this is something that you can do. You can go through the missions, or you can set your guys back to the top, or, however you want to play, you can play. But when it comes to doing campaigns solo or with other people, the important thing is to find out how much bookkeeping you and yours actually want to do. Okay? Now, I am still trying to crack the code to Fallout Wasteland Warfare. There's so many moving parts on that. And it has a solo mode, and it has bookkeeping. Um, but Stargrave, Frostgrave, Rangers of Shadow Deep, and Ghost Archipelago, it's a good place for me to start. I really like this stuff. I'm gonna see if we got any questions here. Let's see. Are there any questions? Nothing on the Discord. Let me check the email. Because each week I hope that it's from email. Aha. Nope, just bill collectors. Gotta love it. Hey, yeah, I know. I know. I have to call you. I know I'm overdrawn at the bank. God. Um. So yeah, these are all things that we can look at and use. All right. Um. This is your last shot for any questions. Just leave one in the chat if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching here on Twitch. Um just hit me up with a question. Let's see who else. Um, is Gaming Fix still here? I'm not quite sure. Oh poop. But yeah. Hmm. And Zan is being really quiet today. Uh huh. Yeah. But that's cool. So yeah. Now, Citizen Splicer says some of these attitudes are why I struggle to get into. Okay, yeah, you are still here. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, some of these attitudes are why I struggle to get into this. It's true. Cooking dinner for the kids. All right. You know what? No, do the thing for the kids. You know how I am about kids. Okay, yeah, because ironically, and this is something they don't tell you in school, you got to feed those things every day. Did you know that? Like sometimes even more than once a day. It's so weird. Things I didn't know from growing up. Um, yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about how Generation X is just kind of mean. We made fun of everyone for everything. So much so that it was in all the movies, and that just began like a really, really, really big cycle. And a lot of us have those scars from back then, you know? Um, I'm working really hard to get past my hatred of being mocked, and I do my best not um to mock people for stuff because I never liked the idea of making fun of someone for not knowing something that they never had access to learning. You get what I mean? And it's easy to say, well, dude, stuff is out there on the internet. Yes, we have access to all knowledge, but do we know what questions to ask? That is a really, really big thing. Let's see here. If someone was going to get back into D&D style games but wanted something shorter and more concise, what would I suggest? Okay. First off, I want you to clarify the question, Citizen Splicer. When you say shorter and more concise, do you mean shorter one-shot adventures or um, a more lightweight mechanics system than D&D. So yeah, because if you're going for one shots, I would definitely say games like Kids on Bikes, um, Dungeons and Dragons starter kits are always great. They're not very granular. Let's see, one shot and not too heavy on bookkeeping. Okay, there you go. Well, number one, any one shot works. Um, I would definitely say Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is very lightweight, okay? Especially if you pick up the starter kits for like 30 bucks that come with pre-made characters, explanations as to what the stats and spells are, and a one-shot campaign. Um, the biggest place that I recommend starting, and I am really big for bang for your buck, all right? Bang for your buck. Let me pull these things up because I gush about them all the time. All the time. Um, let's see. You can easily get your hands on a copy of the Player's Handbook from 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. What are they called? Um, ah, see, I talk about these things all the time, but yeah, God, what were they called? D&D one shots, shot adventures in a box is the search that I'm doing. No. God, what are they called? Um, oh man, I forgot the name of them. Do I have the box in here with me? Let me check because yeah, there are some one-shot adventures that you can pick up for 35 to 50 bucks and I love them to death. I just forgot which company that they're from. Um oh, wait. Oh, one-shot adventure, Mountain King. It's been so long. So long. Nope. What's it called? Oh, one-shot adventure Orcs minis. Nope. Epic Encounters. Epic Encounters from Steam Forge Games. Um, I'm a big fan of these things. Like seriously, a big fan because it scratches all of my itches. Every single one of my itches, it's right there. And that's good for RPGs, and I'll tell you why. Again, it is super easy to get your hands on the 5th edition. Um, um, now I have to sneeze. That has been building up forever. All right. It's really easy to get your hands on a copy of the 5th edition games. Oh, I'm pulling it up. Oh, well, Dunka, Zan. Hey, I said it. I said it. What Epic Encounters. That's right. Epic Encounters. Boom. There we go. That is the stuff there. Um. All right. Let's take a look. Yeah, super easy to get your hands on the Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons. And the link that I just put here in the chat is actually let me just make that okay. And now we're just gonna make this a little bit bigger. All right, and that gives you a link to here. Epic Encounters. Now this is Island of the Crab Archon, which is great. And these are sort of one-shot adventures, okay? And they come with all the minis and the map and the adventure book, okay, in one little box. And it's made for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And real talk, okay, this particular set is $30. Okay, that's it. Oh, hey, 13. I love how you just pop up and give me tech support out of nowhere. This is great. Yeah, these Epic Encounters boxes I love. They're like 30 bucks. And again, it has all the stat blocks that you need. It pretty much has everything that you need for a one-shot adventure, and it's broken down for beginning characters, mid-tier characters, and epic adventures all in one box. All right. I love those. They're from Steam Forge Games. You can get them on Amazon for like 35 bucks, and that's good. Drive Through RPG has loads of free games that you can download for free and play. But if you really want to get into role playing games and you want something that's kind of rules light, um, that's kind of rules light. Again, 5th edition, pretty rules light. Um, Kids on Bikes, also very rules light. But I find Kids on Bikes, as much as I love the game, I find it difficult to write for because I've spent so long reading comics and detective novels and playing RPGs. I find it very difficult to write situations that 12 or 13-year-olds in the 80s could actually succeed with. You know, um, like I can escape a little when I watch The Goonies or watch Stranger Things, but when I see the kids going, "Oh no, 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 I'll get out of here. All right, just yeah, yeah, yeah." And if somebody from the government calls, just tell them I'm not here. I flash back to my childhood, and by the time I said government in that sentence, my mom would be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, 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 you turn around. Don't make me get up," and that's where my adventure would end. Now, if you want to get into tabletop minis games, Battletech is a decent place, or more to the point, Alpha Strike is a very decent place to start. It's very lightweight, and the starter kit is like $80, and that's pretty cool. Again, I will never not talk about one-page rules. Okay, I love that system. I love that game. Um, if you're looking to get into minis, yeah. Let's see here. My payday is this Friday. I shall grab it. I may look into D&D games. BattleTech looks fun too. Yeah, Alpha Strike I'm definitely into. It is a much lighter weight version of BattleTech. And BattleTech, we talked about it last week on the show. Great place to start. Um let's see. You can also, if you know where to look online, you can download lots and lots of the old RPGs. But the thing with the old stuff is that they're all crunchy. Okay? Lightweight, easy to learn games are a very recent thing. Like very, very recent. Um, let's see here. For standard RPGs, yeah, I can most definitely recommend um 5th edition D&D. As many expansions as it has and stuff, at its core, you still just need the player's handbook. And if you're gonna do light stuff, um, well, Epic Encounters has about 6 different adventures, and they range from $30 to $50. Or you can buy the additional books. Oh yeah, Dungeon Crawl Classics. Yeah, exactly. But you can get into pretty much any tabletop role playing system. Morkborg is another one, but that's kind of brutal. Oh, so brutal. Um, and as far as one shots and things like that, one of the reasons I keep harping on 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is because one, 5th edition is really easy to learn. Okay. And second, and this one is huge. Okay. There is a plethora of free stuff out there. Okay. A plethora of free stuff. Now, if you're gonna buy into D&D, I recommend one of the advanced starter kits. Let me double check here. D&D starters. And the reason I recommend this is because they've literally been cultivated. Um, they're literally cultivated to get new people playing. Okay, that's your first hit, bruh. That's your first hit. So now the D&D Essentials kit, you can find on Amazon for about $45 to $50. Um, but in truth, if that's what you're looking at and you're just looking to get back into the thing, it's not a terrible way to start. Yeah, it's not terrible. It's got pre-made characters and things like that. However, if um if oh wow, I am kind of low, huh? Well, hang on. Let me just Oh, that's what happened. Nope. Mic. All right, let me turn my mic up. Okay. Hopefully that's better, guys. All right. So, like I was saying, um yeah, you can totally just pick up the player's handbook. I it retails for 50, okay? But you can find it pretty much anywhere. Again, I'm looking at Amazon. I don't look up eBay because I don't like ordering stuff, but yeah, dude, seriously, let me just put this link here, right now. But bing, right here in the chat, right for you, Citizen Splicer. Um, the player's handbook for D&D, if you follow the link that I just put in the chat, okay, is $26. Yeah, $26. G-Ren got their PHB for $15. I mean, seriously, it is super, super simple. And once you do that, it is a simple Google search for one-shot adventures, pre-made characters, just so many resources. Um, and Drive Through RPG has a bunch of one shots or other campaigns that you can get for literally $2 to $3 each. Tabletop RPGs are not an expensive thing to go into, especially if you already have dice. Okay. No, shut up. That's me fighting with my dice goblin. It's in there. It's saying buy more dice, buy more. But seriously, um, it really is a good place to start. Just a plain old player's handbook. Um, and once you got that, you can download free one shots to play. You can pick up epic encounters. I'm a big fan of epic encounters because, like I said, it scratches all my itches. All right. I can play it solo. It can feel like a board game. It can be an RPG. I can scale it up for me up to 4 other players. Yeah, I mean it really is that simple. But just 5th edition D&D was specifically designed for new players and people that have been out of the game for a little while. That's why it got so popular. Okay, that's why you can find it at Target. Telling you guys that's new. All right, like serious, that's really new. But it is where it is for a reason. Like seriously, it's there for a reason. And mm, and I mean just straight up 5th edition, you don't have to get the other what 57 supplement books that there are now. Um but yeah, just the plain old player's handbook. You can go online and download for free, I believe, the upgrade to the Ranger. Okay, because I think that came out in Tasha's, and yeah, and you can just play the game. Seriously, it really is that easy. You don't have to spend a king's ransom, and you don't have to deal with FOMO. All right, And a lot of this stuff is marketed through FOMO, let's be real. Um, but you don't have to. You don't have to fall for that. You can literally just play. And y'all know how we are here back in the deck. We're all about playing. We like rolling the dice. We like going pew pew. We're not looking for a reason to not do stuff. We're trying to remember why we like doing things. Okay. But yeah. So let's see. Yeah. GRN fifth was wonderful to get used um, to use to get back in a tabletop. Um, oh, good, good, good. Yeah, loving DCC and Dungeon Crawl Classics and Old School Vampire. Now, Old School Vampire. You know what? We still got about 15 minutes left in the show, so let's talk about that. Let's see. DM Dave has some nice stuff for free and $3 for the Patreon. Exactly. See, so many resources for fifth edition. Now, if fantasy isn't really your thing, all right, and you want to do like urban stuff like that, I am huge on the World of Darkness. Okay, love the World of Darkness. Um, I was there at the beginning, so a lot of it is anchoring bias and nostalgia. However, um, ah, um, playing stuff in the World of Darkness is completely different from playing straight up adventure in Dungeons and Dragons. The dice system is different, but easy to understand. Okay, that is the really big thing. Easy to understand dice systems. Um, the D20 system is it's very intuitive once you know it, but in order to learn it, seems kind of counterintuitive. It got better than it was in second edition. Ah, moment of silence for Thaco. I don't know how we used it. Um, but yeah, knowing that you have a stat of 15, but your stat is but it comes with a different thing. Um, yeah, it was a thing. Yeah, Gaming Fix. I know you loved Old World of Darkness. It's how we met. um, you know, knowing what your bonuses here and bonuses there goes, it gets a little weird. Where in the old school World of Darkness, your stat equaled your dice pool, and one, it's a D10 system, so you just need a pile of D10s, and second, I'll get into that in a later in a later episode, Zan. Um, yeah, my AC is -10. Um, but you have stats 1 through 5. You use a D10. You use D10s, and your stat number is how many dice you roll, and you're hoping to get 6 or higher. That easy. I'm with it. Yeah, exactly. Strength plus brawl, done. Easy. That's all. I want to drive a car. Drive plus dexterity. You roll that many dice. How many sixes that you get? If you get 5 successes, you do so exceptionally well. If you get no successes, then you don't do it very well. And if you get no successes or more ones than successes, then you crash. I mean, it's that simple. Um, the only thing that I liked between um the first World of Darkness and then the second World of Darkness, because I forgot which edition it changed, but in the old World of Darkness, they had this thing where you spent willpower to get an automatic success versus um the next edition, like the difference between Masquerade and Requiem, where in Requiem you spent a willpower for 3 more dice. I like that. But also in Requiem, the target number on your D10s turned into 8 versus 6. And I liked that a lot better, actually. I really did like it better. But I like the lore, the powers, and the settings of the old World of Darkness. That was my jam. Um, so yeah, so those are the two places I would say start. White Wolf, or what used to be White Wolf. I think it's Onyx Press that does it now. Wow, if only I had a way of answering questions almost instantly. Yeah, it's not like I have Vampire the Masquerade. Paper faces on parade. Masquerade. Let's see. Nope, not Bloodlines 2. No, that's a video game. Uh-huh. Wait, are we at Requiem? Okay, Onyx Path, Paradox, yeah. Vampire RPG. That's what I'll search for. There we go. Yes. Ah, yes, it's Paradox Interactive. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Paradox. I will decline your cookies. Yeah, Paradox Interactive. They're doing the current rendition of Vampire and Werewolf and Hunter. They haven't come out with Mage yet, and I will talk about them when I when they do, because again, I like wizards. But yeah, so I hope you guys got some good stuff. Um, Jiren is like mage. Ah. um, I hope you guys got some good stuff out of today's things. Just to sum up, um, when creating scenarios for your games, the important thing is to ask yourself the question: if we're sitting down to play this game, what are we trying to accomplish out of fun? Okay. Um, so why have I assembled this crack team? And this is big for when you're playing games like Kill Team or most skirmish games. Okay, I don't care if it's BattleTech or um or Grimdark Future Firefight or Necromunda or Kill Team or Carnivale. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Mm. When you're sitting down to play most skirmish games, having having some sort of narrative mission, and some sort of scenario conditions on the board give a couple more layers of richness and thickness to your game. Notice I didn't say crunch, I said richness. Okay, um, you know, um, I like to think of it like ganache. You can have Hershey syrup, or you can have a ganache. And yeah, I think I want some truffles. That means I'll have to make some truffles. Curses. Um, but yeah, so when it comes down to that, just keep in mind that the interaction with it must be fun. They have to affect everything on the board equally. Um, they have to be engaging. And of course, keep them simple. All right, guys? Now, if you guys got any other questions or comments or things like that, it's really, really simple um, to reach out. All you got to do is pull up your keyboard and again, type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also reach out over at Twitter. Sorry, that's what I call my X. And at Back in the Deck, also on Instagram. And if you use the Clock app, reach out at VidP. All right, guys. Neon Arlecchino has been kind enough to pop an invitation to the Discord in the Twitch chat. So just follow that and just say hello. Hello. And please, guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe with your Amazon Prime or Amazon Gaming account right here on Twitch. Say hello and all that stuff over on the YouTube. We're really trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. I know we can do it. I know that we can do it. We're barely halfway through January, so let's see what we can do there. And remember, if anybody tells you that you guys can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, or your budget, because if you've ever been to a trailer park, you're a walking distance from the home. You can look at them and just tell them to take any card they're playing on you and put them back in the deck. This is This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you guys, and we will see you next time on the dark side of the room. And good luck on your surgical consultation.